Good morning and buenos dias. Welcome to the First Unitarian Universalist Church of San Antonio. My name is Ruth Bujanda-Moore. I have been a member of this congregation since 2010. Prior to joining here, we were members at a UU church in Los Angeles. Our weekly worship is where we connect, share information, and inspiration. To begin, thank you to Esperanza for calling the 4 elements and 4 directions. We appreciate you bringing this rich cultural tradition that you have experienced as a Chicana with its deep indigenous roots into our Dia de los Muertos celebration, created by San Antonio Gente Engaged with Unitarian Universalism, also known as SAGE UU. And now, let us acknowledge this geographic place where we are currently located, Yanaguana, the home and traditional lands of the Guahueltican people, the original and indigenous stewards of this land, to which we all belong, now called San Antonio, Bejar County, not Bexar County, and Texas. Finally, let us also bear in mind that many indigenous peoples have not been recognized by our federal government, even as they continue to live among us as vital contributors to and of our communities. Indeed, we speak these truths as one small step towards becoming the diverse and multicultural community of the communities we all aspire to be. At our church, we strive to enact a universal love that binds us in mutual care and affection, especially in our work for justice for all and for our planet. Our faith is all-inclusive, and all means all. If you are new to us or visiting for the first time today, a special welcome. We welcome you to fill out a visitor's card, which you'll find in front of your pew. We'd like to get to know you and follow up with you. Wherever you are on your life's journey, we hope that you will find your place with us. And now it is time to welcome each other and exchange greetings of peace. Please turn to your neighbor and do so.
Son pura tristeza y son mi dolor. Te fuiste, no sé por qué. Yo sé que me querías, yo sé que me adorabas. Por si acaso quieres regresar, te voy a esperar, te voy a esperar. Tragos de amargo licor que no me hacen olvidar y me siento con como cobarde, hasta me pongo a llorar. Échale, Jaime. Te fuiste, no sé por qué. Yo sé que me querías, yo sé que me adorabas. Por si acaso quieres regresar, te voy a esperar, te voy a esperar. Trago de amargo licor que no me hacen olvidar y me siento como cobarde, hasta me pongo a llorar. Trago de amargo licor que no me hacen olvidar y me siento como cobarde, hasta me pongo a llorar.
Good morning. I'm Lito, husband of Ruth and father to Dante, who will be lighting our chalice today. Dante is a junior at Alamo Heights High School, where he's in his third year of rocketry. He's enjoying tech theater, active in the Sexuality and Gender Alliance Club and the Environmental Club, and also a member of the San Antonio Youth Advisory Council. Additionally, he looks forward to U-Bar U Camp and rallies with YRE teens. As the days grow shorter and we gather in community for the start of our harvest celebrations and the holiday season, let us feel the warmth of our community flame deep within. Let its glow lift our hearts as it shines light on the memory of those loved ones who have gone before us. Let this light remind us of the spark we carry, gifts from our cherished ancestors, both named and unnamed. Let it be so.
We are called as Unitarian Universalists to build the beloved community where each of us are welcomed as blessings. We strive to share grace with ourselves and each other in hope of becoming whole and reconciled. Each week, we affirm this promise to live and behave as a community in covenant. Today, as we celebrate Dia de los Muertos, let us recite in both English and Spanish the covenant that articulates our guidelines and binds us together. The words can be found in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. El amor es la doctrina de esta iglesia. Su sacramento es la búsqueda de la verdad y su oración es el servicio. Convivir en paz, buscar sabiduría en libertad, dar a la humanidad nuestro servicio fraternal para que todas las almas crezcan en armonía con la divinidad. Así pactamos el uno con el otro.
It's time to share our joys and sorrows. I invite us to enter into our hearts and minds in a very intentional way. No. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Doing things a little bit differently today. So if we misstep, please show us the grace that we so desperately need. Thanks, guys. Desde que me fui, guardaste tu querer, paseando por el parque triste solo hasta las 10. El trago más amargo te dejó sin consuelo, herida y llorando y hasta al lado del desierto. Pensaba existía el sueño que algún día tendremos esta casita, juntitos vida mía, y amanezcamos juntos con flores y tamales, festejando con tus risas cada rato, cada baile. Amanezcamos juntos con flores y tamales, festejando con tus risas cada rato, cada baile. Este cuento se acabó, con la tierra desesperaba, entre los matojos, machándome la cara, y amanezcamos juntos, con flores y tamales, festejando con tus risas, cada rato, cada baile. Amanezcamos juntos, con flores y tamales, festejando con tus risas, cada rato, cada baile. Mi cuerpo boca arriba miraba hacia el sol, los ojos me amaba con dolor, y amanezcamos juntos con flores y tamales, festejando con tus risas cada rato, cada baile.
It's such a joy to be here in person again and to hear our lovely musicians. Let's give them one more round of applause. Now it is time to share our joys and our sorrows. I invite us to enter into our hearts and minds in a very intentional way, remembering that ours is a welcoming community that connects us, a spiritual community that enlivens us, a sharing community that amplifies our joys, a caring community hears our sorrows and holds us in compassion. May we listen more deeply, see each other more clearly, and grow closer to each other each time that we gather together. You are now invited to mindfully come forward down the side aisles and light a candle, returning up the center aisle to your seat. As part of our Dia de los Muertos celebration, you may also use this moment to add something to the ofrenda before us, a photo, a flower, a favorite morsel given to honor a lost loved one. And as you do so, please keep in mind that social distancing not only affords comfort to others, but saves lives. Now let us savor this moment of remembrance while Jaime plays our meditation music. So from our community book of joys and sorrows, there is a mention of sorrow for two of our members who recently passed away. Sorrow for the passing from this life of Dave Minnick, I apologize, beloved husband of Martha Cooley. So let us keep them in our hearts and prayers. There's joyful sentiments for the harvest celebration. Joyful that one of our members visited with a youngest daughter this weekend. Joyful to celebrate Dia de los Muertos with my church family and family, holding space for those visitors and predecessors in the coming nights. And joyful to be able to be back at church after the accident. So thankful for all the support from everyone here, a family from Fort Worth. Let us keep in mind these sorrows, and let us also keep in our hearts the joys as well. We are a community where we uphold each other. Take a deep, cleansing breath and exhale. For the joys shared, may we join in celebration. For the sorrows and concerns, may we feel empathy and compassion. For all that remains unspoken, may we create a space of deep kindness, love, and just action. Today's service is but one reminder that not even death can break the bonds that binds us. We cannot stop. We go on living, and as we do, we keep counsel with those who have gone before us. We see in our mind's eye their deeds, and when we would have sought their advice, we hear their murmurs of comfort in our ears, whom we would have turned to them in times for solace. We feel their legacy in new life that grows where they once tread. May we feast in this bounty, for as we do, they still live. Would like to call up the children for Story of Wisdom by Ruth Castillo. The story is An Ofrenda for Abuela. So if all the little kids or young at heart, or everyone, would like to come up and kind of just be careful with the ofrenda, but you could kind of sit in front of Ruth.
Hello, my friends. Take your time, take your space. Come sit in front of our ofrenda. So I wrote a story about some kids that were about your age. It's called An Ofrenda for Abuela. Había una vez, that means once upon a time. There were 3 cousins, Zoila, Cristina, and John. And they were very close. And they had this grandmother, this abuela Rocha, that they loved so much. Every day after school and throughout most of the summer, the kids would go to abuela's house until their parents got off from work. Abuela would help them with their homework, she'd send them outside to play, and she'd make them dinner. What do you guys eat for dinner? Does anyone here ever have sopa? Soup? I eat soup. Okay. And no matter what it was for dinner, good company always made it tastier, right? When we're together. But Abuela Rosa is gone now. And so now after school, they go to their tia Lulu's. Now, Lulu's not really their tia. She's not really related to them. You guys have someone that you know that you love that's really close to you? They're not really related to you. This was their Tia Lulu. And everything was different at Tia Lulu's. The house smelled different. The couch was different. The TV remote was different. And the food was different. And so it was one day in late October that little cousin Zoila said, she's looking at her bowl of soup, and she started to cry. Have you guys ever cried over soup? I've cried over soup. What's wrong? Tia Lulu asked. Words burst out of Zoila's chest, and she goes, the soup is wrong. It has macaroni shapes. Sopa has conchita shapes. Abuela Rosa makes conchitas, Cristina added. John piped in, yeah, conchitas are real sopa. Real sopa has conchitas. There are many ways to make sopa. But I eat conchitas. And Abuela Rosa would put the cheese on top. Yeah, I miss eating conchitas with cheese. I miss Abuela. John's words hung on that table. They were sitting there on top of that steam. No one was looking at Tia Lulu. She started thinking, I know we all miss her, my dear ones. Let's put away our soup, and we're going to make an ofrenda in her memory. We're going to make it, but we're not going to touch it right now, guys. What's an ofrenda? John was curious. Una ofrenda, a little altar space, Lulu said while putting the dishes in the sink. You put things that belong to that person or remind you of that person or pictures of those people, and you put them all together in one space. What for? Christina asked. She was skeptical. To honor their memory. Do you guys like to honor people's memory? Do you like to remember people? Yeah, me too. Yeah, we're remembering honey. Put it right there. I'm going to start with a picture of your abuelita. And we'll put it right here on the counter. My mommy has a candle. She lets me light it sometimes. I'm really good at lighting candles, said little Zoila. Perfect, mi corazón. I have a candle in the cabinet here. Let's put it right here next to the picture. That flame's warmth will remind us of the warmth we felt near Abuelita Rosa. And it will light the way for her spirit to be with us. What else can we add? Maybe, can we add flowers? Can we add flowers? John asked. Perfect! Yes, flowers are perfect, mijito. Let's grab these scissors and let's cut some flowers from the yard, and we'll put them right here next to this picture and next to this candle. You know, the way they sway in the breeze when they're growing, that reminds us of the wind. And it's going to smell so beautiful and call her spirit to where it needs to be with us today. Tia Lulu, why are you putting an extra glass there? We already have water for the flowers. Oh, don't you know water is important for life? All of us are made with water, and everyone needs to drink. And no guest in my house goes thirsty. And besides, your abuelita Rosa, she might want to wash her hands real quick. Pásame el sal. Pass me the salt, she says. Zoila grabbed the salt shaker off the table and said, what's this for? What are we doing? Well, salt is just as important as water. It preserves, it keeps us safe, and it makes everything better. And look, if I'm careful, I can make a little cross here, like a compass, to help Abuelita Rosa find her way to us. Now, I think if we check in the pantry, we're going to find some pan dulces. I bought some for dessert. Do you guys like to eat dessert? Yeah? What do you like to eat for dessert? You like donuts? Who here likes donuts? Yeah. Oh, lots of us like donuts. Well, Abuelita's favorite dessert, Tia Lulu told us, was churros. You like pudding? Has anyone here have a churro? A cinnamon sugar donut? A long churro? And she liked to mix hers into her coffee. So Tia Lulu took those churros and she put one on a plate for Zoila, one for Cristina, one for John, one for her. And then she put another plate at the altar, at the ofrenda, for Abuela Rosa. This churro is for your abuelita. When we would sit down, I remember her stirring her coffee. And you know, the wheat that grows in the ground becomes these churros. And those churros become me. And one day I'm going to return to the earth. And we're never really gone. The memory of your abuela lives on in you. Her memory lives on in our hearts and minds. And little Zoila said, I like making ofrendas. I like eating churros. I like conchitas. She was real little. But from then on, Tia Lulu kept that ofrenda in the corner of her kitchen, and she kept conchitas stocked in her pantry. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my story. The question was, did I make up the story right now? No, I made it up this month.
Muchísimas gracias, Ruth. Let's sing the children out to the playground now. We are now going to show a memorial slideshow that was lovingly put together. So if you would turn your attention to the monitor.
Let Me Die Like a Mexican by Clarita Menyon. A civilization that denies death ends by denying life. Octavio Paz. They say you only truly die when your name is spoken for the last time. Nowhere is this more true than in Mexico, where Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead, takes remembering lost loved ones to a whole new level. At first glance, this national holiday may pass for a Mexican version of Halloween, with its spooky skeletons, sweet treats. But while modern Halloween exists largely to peddle pumpkins and face paint, Dia de Muertos is a bittersweet reflection of love lost and life well lived. According to Mexican tradition, 2nd November is the one day when souls can leave the afterlife. To help guide lost loved ones back to earth, families build elaborate altars in homes and graveyards, or in their church. These offerings are draped with flower garlands and colorful crepe paper and hung with corn cobs, fruit, and sugar cane. Dozens of flickering candles light the way, while the scent of cempasúchil, Mexican marigolds, hangs in the air. Water, salt, and sweet pan de muerto bread are laid out to nourish the dead after their long journey home. And it doesn't stop there. Children's graves are festooned with sweets and toys, while tobacco and tequila are left to tempt the spirits of adults. Families even prepare platefuls of their loved ones' favorite meals for their short time on earth. All this may sound morbid, but Dia de Muertos is far from a day of moping and mourning. Families gather to remember those they've lost, not with sadness, but with songs, stories, and laughter. The foods from the offerings are eaten, music played, and memories shared. To outsiders, this lack of solemnity may seem disrespectful, but as a friend explained, when someone you love dies, it affects you every day. So why would you be sad on the one day they're back here with you? When you look back at it like that, it's hard to argue that the Day of the Dead is anything but beautiful. But how can it possibly comfort those who, like me, don't believe in heaven, souls, or anything else beyond this world? As an atheist, I spent my first year in Mexico looking at Dia de Muertos from the outside in, as something only other people believed in. The religious, the spiritual, those brought up in Mexican culture. Another couple of years on, though, and I was starting to understand that this remembrance is much more than merely symbolic. Believe in what you will. Let's say all those who ever cared about a particular person gathered together in one place to remember them by sharing their most vivid and vibrant memories. Surely then, for that one moment at least, that person's spirit's really there? And so, while I have endless wishes for my life, I now have only one for my death. Let me die like a Mexican. When I'm gone, with any luck many years from now, let me be remembered as Mexicans are. Let bright orange blossoms, the gentle glow of candles, and the smell of my favorite foods guide me home. Let me be brought back to life once a year through the love and laughter of those who knew me. Let my memory bring joy to anyone I leave behind. If that's not life after death, I don't know what is.
So now it is time before our musicians do their wonderful music. We're going to do the invitation for generosity. The offertory brings us the opportunity to share our gifts, gifts that have nourished our hearts and can bring inspiration and care to others. You may make an offering on our online giving portal through a link that's on the screen, or mail a check made out to First GU San Antonio. So I invite the ushers to come on up for those who want to be able to place the generosity into the baskets.
Cuenten que en Oaxaca se tome mezcal con café. Cuenten que en Oaxaca se tome mezcal con café. Dicen que la hierba le cura la mala fe. Dicen que la hierba le cura la mala fe. A mí me gusta mole, que soledad me va a moler. A mí me gusta mole, que soledad me va a moler. Mi querida soledad me va a guisar un molito por el cielo del Monte Elbón. De noche sueño contigo, mi querida soledad. Me va a guisar un molito por el cielo del Monte Elbón. De noche sueño contigo. Se muele con cacahuate, se muele también el pan. Se muele almendra seca, se muele chile, también la sal. Se muele ese chocolate, se muele la canela. Se muele pimiento y clavo, se mueve la molendera. Se muele con cacahuate, se muele también el pan. Se muele la almendra seca, se muele chile, también la sal. Se muele ese chocolate, se muele la canela. Se muele pimiento y clavo, se mueve la molendera. Se mueve la molendera, se mueve la molendera. Cuenten que en Oaxaca con agua hace el chocolate. Cuenten que en Oaxaca con agua hace el chocolate. Dicen que la fiesta ahorita se da a quemar. Dicen que la fiesta ahorita se da a quemar. Para hagar su manda por la pasión de soledad. Para hagar su manda por la pasión de soledad. Mi querida soledad me va a guisar un molito por el cielo del Monte Elbón. De noche sueño contigo, mi querida soledad. Me va a guisar un molito por el cielo del Monte Elbón. De noche sueño contigo. Ay, 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 ay. Ay, 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 ay. Woo!
Our church has a larger purpose to support all of us in becoming more generous and giving of our time, talent, and treasure. May we succeed in fulfilling our goals, especially in our service to each other and to our wider community. Good morning, everybody. It's a great privilege for me to talk to this congregation during Dia de los Muertos service. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Emmanuel Garrido. I've been a part of this church for the last 8 years. I had to look that up last night because I always say 4, 6, something like that. But I come to talk to you today about one of my favorite topics, one of my true passions in life, which is food. Probably one of your favorite topics as well. And I also wanted to mention, I grew up as a Mormon in Mexico, and I didn't know that Dia de los Muertos was kind of a Mexican holiday until I moved to Idaho for school. And that's when I realized how localized it was. There's always been this confusion between, is Dia de los Muertos Mexican Halloween? I kind of thought Halloween was the American Dia de los Muertos somehow. So let me just mention a couple of things about food and how it relates to Dia de los Muertos. But first of all, let's just think about the significance that food has for humanity. It obviously fulfills a very basic need for humankind. We need to eat to nurture our bodies and keep on living. But there's another very important aspect, and throughout history, food has brought people together. There is a term in diplomacy, culinary diplomacy, which is what diplomats and businessmen, that is when they organize a meal to bridge communication among cultures and among different parties. This is a way to break ice, but it's a very old practice that has a fancy name now, but it has existed forever. Food has also been the basis to determine different eras. We talk about nomadic humans versus sedentary humans, and it all revolves around when we're able to produce food in different ways. Of course, the world map has been defined in part by food. The world trade has given shape to civilizations in different ways. Can you imagine, for instance, Indian food that is not spicy, because peppers are native to the Americas, or Italian food without tomatoes? So over time, as we use food in different ways, that has shaped humanity, and that continues to happen. Things continue to evolve. Our very own congregation, before the pandemic, we had the fun lunch, and it was an opportunity for all of us to come together. Who misses those? I mean, we even, yeah, of course. I mean, we even would let the newcomers join us. I mean, yeah, there's a fundraising aspect, but I feel like the focus of it was truly in building community. And let's not forget about the pop culture significance of food. What would it be of the Lord of the Rings without the hobbits and their multiple meals throughout the day? You know, having 11 seeds during their second breakfast. Sometimes that is my spirit animal. Of course, we dedicate books, we dedicate music, movies, different forms of art to food, because we all love talking about food, but not just about eating the food. We love talking about what food represents to us. In the sacred text, of course, there's Passover, celebrating the exodus of the Israelites from slavery in Egypt. Iftar, which is a meal at the end of each day in Ramadan, happening at sunset. And if any of you has had the opportunity to witness this, it's quite a marvel to see people gather together outside of mosques throughout the world to partake of this breaking fast. And of course, the communion in the Christian tradition to commemorate another meal, right? The Last Supper. And a different type of sacred text. In the Maya tradition, humankind was created in different iterations. And the last one that kind of stuck with few adjustments was when men were created out of corn to form their flesh and limbs. So, what is Day of the Dead? And it has been mentioned today a couple of times. I did want to mention that Day of the Dead is an amalgamation of different traditions from different cultures. So we like to always mention, it's a combination of the indigenous tradition and the Spanish tradition. But even within the indigenous tradition, that is also an amalgamation. Throughout Mexico and Central America, Day of the Dead can last, one day, or it can last 10, depending on where you are. There are a lot of things in common across cultures, and one of them, of course, is the focus on food. And the beautiful altar we have today has some of the things that you will see in most places, the cempasúchil flowers, of course. There's always this color orange present in a lot of these altars. Tradition says that that is the color that the dead can see. That is why you form the path with the petals. And of course, there are some staples that we see when we think of the food. I think down there, there's some fruits, there's some sweet breads, pan de muerto. Mole is another thing that people always think about. And again, mole can mean many different things, maybe from one house to another. Tamales are another staple, and those also vary by locality. And the point that I want to make, that I want to bring across when we talk about locality is that culture is always shaped by the food that they have available to them. My family, both parts of my family are from the northern part of the state of Veracruz, so tamales in the altars were always wrapped in banana leaves. The two types that really remind me of Dia de los Muertos is the shrimp and squash tamales that one of my tias would make every year, and the pork picadillo with raisins that my mom still makes to this day. There's also the hot chocolate, a drink that was reserved to the elite in Mesoamerican times and that we are very lucky to have at our disposal. And it's really important for me to emphasize the locality of the food and how it relates to the altar. There is really not one way, one true way, or one correct way to celebrate Dia de los Muertos, or a specific menu that you have to have. Even pan de muerto came as a fusion of, the Mesoamerican tradition that relied mostly on corn. I've read that one of the precursors to pan de muerto was actually human hearts, cooked with amaranth. And that's not nearly as appetizing to me now as, the actual pan de muerto that came from the Spanish baking tradition. But my point is, we can all celebrate this feast. It really is an occasion to remember our dearly departed. We do use their favorite foods. And, for some people that might mean tamales. For someone else, it might mean, Twinkies, right? Depending what each person liked. My grandmother, my mother's mom, she was a known chain smoker, so we would always make sure to have cigarettes on the altar for her. Last night, I poured some whiskey for my brother. We kind of did a last-minute altar, and I know that is the liquor that he would prefer. So that's what we have there. Now, the last thing that I wanted to mention about food and Mexican culture in general is sobremesa, which, I feel very lucky to have been born Mexican, and in a way inherit the Spanish tradition that is found all over Latin America that we call sobremesa. And that is a part of the meal where you basically not focus on eating, but rather, rest after eating, relax, but also have the conversation in which you develop and increase those bonds with the people sharing the meal with you. I was also thinking about how there's an aspect of remembering our dearly departed and preserving their legacy through food, and that can also come in the least expected of ways. It can mean that every time that you make, your grandma's conchita recipe, you are preserving that legacy. That is also a way to remember the dearly departed. I was asking my kids, I think it was yesterday, what their favorite meal occasions were. And I was a little surprised that one of them said that whenever we go to Mexico and we eat random things on the street, that is one of their favorite occasions, which I never thought about as an occasion. But, you know, this took a different meaning for me because my brother passed away earlier this year, and it really took me just kind of think about how my brother has influenced who I am today, to realize that a lot of the things that I like about food, the cooking, the trying, the eating on the street, really came from him. So it made me think that them liking to eat just random things on the street or try new things has really become part of my brother's legacy. So, in conclusion, I really want to, you know, make it a point. If you can remember only one thing from what I'm telling you is make this holiday yours. Whatever Dia de los Muertos means to you, as long as you are remembering your loved ones, that is the right way to do. Whatever you want to put on your altar, whether it's a physical altar or it's an altar in your mind, I invite you all to honor your ancestors or your departed loved ones. So let's make this Dia de los Muertos truly a feast to remember all of our loved ones so that they can keep on living. So we'll listen from our musicians a great song that has become a tradition from the Sage services. So you'll recognize it.
Yes, the words are in the order of service, so please feel free to sing with us. De colores se visten los campos en la primavera. De colores son los pajaritos que vienen de afuera. De colores es el arco iris que vemos lucir, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí, y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Canta gallo con el kirikiri, kirikiri. La gallina con el cara, 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 cara. Los pollitos con el pío, 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 pío. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí. Y por eso los grandes amores de muchos colores me gustan a mí.
My friends, thank you for joining in this feast of remembrance and reflection. Let the tears that we've shed over our departed continue adding to the flavor of life. Enjoy the sobremesa with your loved ones as we return to our busy lives.